Hello, hello, hello. Today I am here with Heather Hart, and we are going to be talking about, I hate to say that this is one of my favorite subjects, but it really is, talking about narcissistic abuse and how to build endurance after the fact. This is going to be an amazing podcast. I am super excited. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I am the host here at her talk show. If you have not already subscribed, girl, get on that subscribe button. These podcasts are guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we can send you some love in the comments. We have had over 500 women grace this stage, and we are adding another one to the list today. Heather Hart. She is the CEO of Hart Strong Enterprise, is a trauma survivor turned coach, specializing in helping clients leave, heal, and grow from toxic, abusive, and narcissistic relationships. She believes that we all possess the ability to heal ourselves and change our mindsets. And she leads women through a transformational journey of healing, leading them to their own source of power to change their circumstances. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ladies, so excited to have you here. And, this just hits so close to home because narcissism is the foundation of how this podcast was formed, is my own story of abuse. So it brings us right back to the roots of, what really started the catalyst, I guess, behind this beautiful podcast, and all of the women that we have had on this far. Who are true warriors in all kinds of things, right? All kinds of things when it comes to career, money, communication, relationships, abuse, health, and really have had just a plethora of stories. So you are bringing to us endurance.
Yes, building endurance. Before we jump into that, I just want to say what you just said is beautiful, because I talk a whole lot about that, right? We can't, when we're in the middle of the storm, it feels so much like we don't know why it's happening or what good is going to come of it. And so many women start by getting out of abuse to where it changes the way that we see everything and the way we decide to move forward in life and how we actively choose every single day to use that for positive. So,
yeah. So why endurance? Why is this topic of endurance so important after leaving these abusive relationships?
Well, when you get out of the relationship, most people are so lost because we lose our identities in these relationships. Over time, our entire identity becomes wrapped up in this abusive person, in this manipulative person. And so when we leave, we're at a state of confusion. We have lost our entire sense of identity. And sometimes it's easy to just go back into another relationship where we find the same traits in new people, and we just find ourselves cycling through these reckless relationships. And building endurance requires you to take a step back, understand who you are, and that's a whole nother topic because we can go down 5 different avenues on self-discovery, right? But taking a step back, rediscovering who you are, understand who you are without this person, understand that a lot of your main motivators were never for yourself to begin with. And once you start to dig in on who you are as a person and how you want to grow and evolve as a person, then you can actually start to live, right? Then you can actually start to make decisions that are right for you. Communities that are right for you, and ultimately leading you to partners that are right for you. It's an incredible journey, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of women 1 to 5 years, I'd say, depending on how long that they've been in these abusive relationships and how much trauma they've had prior to entering those relationships. Like how many lies have they been told and had to live through to get to that place where they're ready to start making decisions and living for themselves.
Yeah. When you say 1 to 5 years, 1 to 5 years to do what?
To really figure out who they are, why they do what they do, and who they want to be going forward. Who do they want to choose to be going forward? I know in my journey, when I got out of my relationship, I had no idea who I was. No idea who I was without this man and his family. I just was totally consumed by all of that. And you spend so much time grieving that person, and you spend a lot of time I guess focusing on the things that were done wrong to you, that once you get through that grief and you start to self-reflect and look at who you are at your core, for me it was realizing that I had just been surviving my entire life, right? And so by surviving, I had just been going and doing and going and doing without understanding why I was doing the things I was doing on the daily. And when I say doing and surviving, I mean just getting through life, trying to find someone that I love and who loved me back, trying to raise a daughter, trying to bring in money to pay the bills, like all of these things that keep us distracted from the things that really matter in our lives, which is being intentional about what we do, why we do it. And so for me, it took me really evaluating myself and understanding why I was picking these partners that seemed to leave me broken or hurt. And to do that, it takes a lot of hard work of looking at yourself and understanding different experiences that happened along the way that morphed your behaviors and changed you into who you are and why you tick the way you tick. So when I say 1 to 5 years, it really just depends on how long you've been on this hamster wheel of doing without thinking. And in order to be able to do that, it's like, peeling back all the layers of the onion on where things started and how you got here.
Definitely. I'd love for you mentioned totally consumed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can totally relate to this. And because there's 2 of us here and it's 100% ratio on this, I'm assuming that other women are dealing with the same thing of being totally consumed by somebody. But I didn't know, which maybe you had the same, I didn't know until I left and I looked back and I was like, my whole world revolves around this person. Can you explain that a little bit more, right? Because there's things that we don't know
Mm-hmm.
that we don't know, right? Like until somebody says something. So can you share a little bit about what that exactly means and maybe a little bit about like how that was for you?
Sure. For me personally, after all the soul searching I did, for me, it was a lot of people pleasing. It was a lot of people pleasing, and there's a lot of guilt and shame that go behind the manipulation tactics of narcissistic people. And so when I would receive praise, right? When you first enter a relationship with a narcissistic person, if your platform started with narcissistic abuse, the 3 phases, right? The idolization, the devaluation, and the rejection, right? In that idolization phase, it feels like you found your hero and they shower you with all of this love and affection. And they praise you for being the person that you are. And so for me, I just wanted to be around him all the time because he made me feel so good. And then slowly over time, what happens, especially during devaluation, when they make you feel obligated to be there and meet whatever need they have, whether it's emotionally, physically, if they're wanting you to feed the image that they're projecting out to the world. And so for me, it was pleasing him, receiving that praise on being in the house, doing the career, making the dinner, keeping the house clean, or his need to constantly make me feel that I needed to live these traditional values, right? And so over time, as they start to throw these little jabs at us, it causes us stress. We want to make our partners happy. And so we change and we bend and we morph and do all of these little things, and we change all of these little things along the way to where eventually we don't hang out with our friends anymore. We don't even have, where did they go? Or you don't have your own family anymore because you're so consumed with theirs. And so it's just these slow little adjustments over time where they make you feel obligated to spend time with them, to live a traditional or certain way according to whatever their standards are. And over time, these little adjustments along the way turn into really big outcomes.
Yeah, I can totally see that and can totally relate to all of that. When you're talking about doing things on your own without them, wanting to create a life outside, what can somebody expect to see, right? So you say, I want to hang out with my girlfriends. What are a couple of things, some red flags that a woman might encounter when she is trying to not be totally consumed with him?
That's a really good question, because sometimes it can be it depends on the person, but a lot of times, like really smart manipulators will, they will slowly start to make you feel like your friends aren't your friends. And so they will project this sense of care, like they want to protect you from looking a certain way, or a lot of times they'll say things like, do you really want to hang out with someone who, let's say you have a friend who's just fun and outgoing and doesn't give a shit when they go out to the club. We always have that fun friend who isn't afraid to be flirty and single or whatever. And a lot of times when narcissistic people, they want to keep the control over you. They don't want you to go out and have fun and see this life outside of this box. A lot of times they will start to attack your friends, and they'll make it seem like they are coming from a place of care or love or concern. And then there are also a lot of times where they will make you feel guilty for being outside of the house, or I thought we were going to spend more time together, or okay, well, I never go out. I never do these things. Why are you going out and doing these things? And a lot of times they will also make you feel like if you do this, you are going to be punished for it. And there are other tactics of, if they let you go out, they will constantly text you or call you or make you feel obligated or anxious while you're out, to where you don't even want to be out anymore, because you don't want to hang out with other family members or friends because you're anxious that they're going to need something, or they're going to constantly be texting you. So you feel obligated to reply. And so if you sense that if you have a sense of guilt about going out with your family or your friends, that's a red flag. If you have a sense of anxiety while you're out and you can't identify where that anxiety is coming from, that is also a red flag. If you feel like you are going to be punished or you somehow aren't deserving of this, that is also a red flag.
Absolutely beautiful. Because I think one of the biggest issues is like these little things are happening that aren't a huge deal.
Right.
And are easily justified, right? I love you so much. I just wanted to hang out with you. So it's easy to kind of bypass, but it's these subtle little things that wind up keeping you isolated.
Yes.
And totally consumed with them. So you have no outside life. And when you have no outside life, then you have nobody to ask these questions to. So when something happens that's a little awry or a little amiss, you start getting these gut feelings. You've isolated yourself so much from your friends and family that you don't even have anyone to turn to ask these questions to. So, people listening, we have a ton of people listening live. By the way, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with Heather and I. We so appreciate that. But people who are listening live, Heather, who are understanding and seeing the red flags, right? They're seeing it themselves. Everything that you're saying is aligning with what they are feeling. What is the pivot that somebody should make when they are looking to exit something like this? Was your journey just a quick hit, you in, out? Is there planning involved, friends, family? What do you usually speak to your clients about? Maybe one or two kind of staple things that you recommend for your clients when they finally have seen the light and they're pivoting out of these relationships?
So there are so many different avenues, right? Because it depends on what type of an abuser they're with. And when it comes to safety, you can never be too careful. If you have made the decision to leave and you feel in your gut that you're afraid, even if they've never exhibited signs of physical abuse, if you feel in your gut that you don't know what this person is capable of, believe that gut. You cannot be too serious, or you can't overplan safety. I actually talk about that quite a bit in my book. And there's two different types of safety plans, because you have people that you have to worry about your physical safety, but you also have narcissistic abusers that will control you financially. And so there are two different aspects that you have to look for. One is, am I going to be physically hurt? If there is a concern, I think I recommend letting your friends and family know. If you don't want to be in the same house, go to a friend and family, or go to a friend or family member's home, and only tell people you trust where you are. And when it comes to financial safety, because a lot of narcissistic abusers it causes an injury to their ego, and they don't want to let go of power or control. And there are so many people that I have talked to, women that come to me and say, he closed the bank account. He pulled all the money out of the bank account. I have nothing. I don't know what to do. They can't pay their bills. And so if you have this gut-wrenching response that you need to plan this out, listen to your gut. Figure out what you need to leave financially. If you need to open another account, open another account. Start small and start putting away money get you to the place you need to be, so that when you do exit, you're not, you don't have the rug pulled out from under you, and you have the power and authority to make moves for yourself without needing them for whatever reason.
Yeah, definitely. All the things. And it is difficult. You're right. But leaving, right? Leaving is definitely on the spectrum there as far as one of the steps to do. But again, like you said, it's like, this could be family. This could be your mother. This could be your father. Could be a
Yes.
partner. These people aren't always just, relationship partnerships where we find these people. When you are stepping out of a relationship like this, you're seeing the clarity. You're at a point where you've left. You have your own place. You're gray rocking. You're putting up the walls. You're cutting off communication. No contact. Clarity, healing, the 1 to 5 years. What does this look like when somebody is starting to gain clarity? How does somebody start walking into that?
Yeah, honestly, the main thing that keeps us in the cycle is lack of clarity, right? And so these cycles that we continuously go through creates this, I call it a veil of confusion, right? Like the brain fog. And it takes time to sift through that. It takes time to clear that fog out. I think the main thing that women struggle with, myself included, is knowing the real version of the person. You will see that real version come out really quickly at the end of the relationship. And understanding that the person that you met in the beginning of the relationship doesn't exist. And I say that because when we do leave and we do find our own place, or we start over, they always come back. Most of the time they come back, and they want back into our lives. And they will make all of these promises to change. And and they'll throw big guns out, like whatever you've been begging them to do for so long, they'll all of a sudden want to do that to make it work. And so being able to get very clear on who this person really is a really big one. I wrote about that a little bit as well, right? Like, one of the main things that confused me all the time was there were like 3 different versions of my ex-husband. There was like the one that he wanted me to believe, the family man, the guy that wanted to be the soccer coach, the guy that everyone loved because he was so great at charming everyone. And then there was like the alcoholic version of him that would, he would drink excessively and something insane would happen and he would have alcohol to hide behind. And then there was the version of him just being paranoid about whether or not I was faithful throughout the relationship. And so it took me writing down all of these different versions and just trying to figure out like which one is real. And then it hit me. I was like, they're all real. Like it's all true. But I believe all of them. And what this did for me was give me enough clarity to make the decision that it was just too inconsistent for me to ever be happy and be able to and have, my mental well-being was impacted dramatically. So that's one thing. The second thing is, when you get out of the relationship, you're going to have extreme low levels of depression because you've been so dependent on this person for your happiness for so long. And understanding that is a temporary experience, and it sucks. It's the worst part. There are actually withdrawal symptoms. There are people who go through withdrawal during that phase, and understanding that it goes away with time. And this is part of building endurance. When you feel that way, understanding that you have the control to make it feel better, and he isn't the source to make it better. There are actually other things to produce serotonin in your brain, or oxytocin, or whatever it is that you need to do to feel better. And that's part of building endurance, is realizing when you're at those low levels, how to bring yourself back up without contacting him or any other potential partner. And then there's also the aspect of just doing normal things, right? Like I had to teach myself how to redo life in general, because everything I did was so focused around eggshells and not doing certain things because I was afraid I was going to rock the boat, that even outside the relationship, I felt like I wouldn't go out. I felt bad when I was out, and realizing that when you feel those things come up, finding the clarity behind why do I not want to go out and hang out with my girlfriends? I always feel so much better when I do, but for some reason I have this voice that's still in my head, that I have that same feeling of guilt or shame coming up, making me think I shouldn't be out. I shouldn't be doing these things because I'm a mom and I need to be in the house. So there are so many different things along the way that require you to just explore all the avenues to get really clear about where you are and how you want to move forward.
I would love for you to expand a little bit more on the depression, the extreme lows, the trauma bond. And you had mentioned that there's some other things that people can do. This hit me hard. I went back to, I don't know, necessarily what your story is, but I went back to my abuser after fully moving out and fully like months away, still coming back because of the trauma bond. I just was having a conversation with my mom literally last week. She just point blank asked, like, why did you go back? Like, you were set. You were like, fine, everything. Why? And explaining this to her. So I would love for you to explain a little bit more about what the trauma bond is. And then 2, what were some of the tools or some of the things that you have used or that you have told your clients to use in order to create that same or fulfill that feeling that they're trying to get?
Sure. So the trauma bond, in a nutshell, the trauma bond is when you develop loving feelings for a person who is abusive or not good for you. And there's always this sense of rescuing, right? You become chemically dependent on this person through these cycles of abuse. And so what happens in the relationship, you have the idolization phase where this person makes you feel so good, and you know that, or you have no question that this is the man that you want to be with, man or woman that you want to be with. And during the devaluation phase, whenever they start to insult you or slowly strip away your value and your worth, what happens in that devaluation phase is it produces low levels of stress, which is like cortisol in your brain. And the only thing that makes that stress go away when you're having this conflict is to go back into this love bomb phase. And typically it's an extreme low. Like, they'll make you feel really low. You'll get to a certain point, and then they'll come back in and make up for whatever it was that they did. And it feels like things are great and moving forward in a positive direction. And that releases dopamine. It's like a reward chemical. The dopamine is released. And so what happens is you become dependent on these cycles, and these highs and lows play out throughout the relationship. The longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out of these cycles. So when the relationship ends, we've gotten so accustomed to them being that source of reward or that source of happiness when we're at the pit of the low, that when we're out of the relationship, it's like the lowest of the low, because the thing that used to make us feel better isn't there anymore. And what happens is we become extremely depressed. We don't know why. We know that we feel changed, and we can't explain why we feel changed, and we don't know how to make ourselves feel better. And I actually wrote a little, like, extensively about this in, the second half of my book. When I take a step back and realize kind of what I did to heal, I got into the habit of refinishing furniture. Like whenever it's replacing behaviors is really at its core. That's what it is. I feel sad. I want to call him because I know that it's going to make me feel better. It's like an instant relief, but I don't want to do this because I want off this damn hamster wheel. I'm tired of this. And so recognizing when you're at your lowest point and understanding I am responsible for picking my ass up and figuring this out, because I'll be damned if I feel like this. This is not my ending. Like, this is not how my story ends. And so knowing that you are going to go through periods of depression and withdrawal. I had night sweats and nightmares. I cannot tell you, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't know that was a thing, and it absolutely is. So being aware that these are the things that are going to happen when you're getting out of these toxic relationships, and knowing that you have the power to make yourself feel better. And it's not him or her. It's figuring out what I refinished furniture. I would feel bad. And I had social anxiety that developed during the relationship. So going out wasn't the best thing for me. So I started buying all this furniture and refinishing it if I felt like I had all of this tension and I didn't want to sleep or cry or be sad. And sometimes I would cry while I was standing. Going for a walk, when you work on your physical health, everyone knows that it produces serotonin. Going for a walk and getting exercise, it'll produce endorphins, and those are the positive things that our brain and our bodies need. And we can trick ourselves into being happy. It doesn't feel good at first, but eventually, when you start progressively making these more positive changes, just like you made the negative ones when you were with the narcissist, it's kind of in reverse. You make all of these small changes over time that are so beneficial for your well-being and for your healing.
Yes, perfectly explained. Perfectly. And it's so confusing if you don't know what it is. Because it's just like, why do I keep doing this? And then you're beating yourself up. Shame, guilt. Like, what is wrong with me? But it's actual scientifically like a thing.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. It's not that you're crazy. It's not that you don't have willpower or whatever it is. It's actually your body fiending for that
relief.
For the roller coaster, basically the high.
Yeah.
And then you get back
That's what it is.
to the low, for sure. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I so appreciate you coming here and talking about all this. I would love for you to talk a little bit as we're closing up here about what people can expect afterwards. Right?
How soon afterwards?
after we've gone through the trauma bond and we're starting to heal and we're on our path. And because so many times we're like, you can't even think about life without that person. It's like you think you're so in love with this person and this is your person. And then you come out on the other end and there's a whole nother life and a whole nother feeling. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your journey, or maybe, what you have seen as far as the life that is waiting for these people once they leave these toxic relationships.
Yes. And I'm going to try not to cry. But at the end of the day, as simply as I could put it, they take our sense of power, right? We feel powerless to change our circumstances. And what lies on the other side is when you start doing these things gradually, they're little nuggets, right? You're like, oh, I didn't think I could do that, but I did. And you realize I have the power to change this narrative, this feeling. And what lies on the other side of that is the resilience. Once you heal from narcissistic, there are just so many life lessons in that experience, because it makes you dive deep into why the hell you do what you do, that once you understand it, there is nothing you can't do. You're proof of that, Sabrina. I mean, you went through your experience and you started where you were or was, and now you have this beautiful talk show where you highlight other strong and independent women, and I love that. But what lies on the other end is transformative and inspirational change that you can't fathom, because when you're in the storm, you can't see the light. And once you get through that storm, the possibilities are endless. I didn't think that I could quit my job, but I did. I didn't think that I was ever going to leave my corporate America job, and here I am with my company and my book, and just trying to help women get through the eye of that storm. Because when you invest that amount of work in yourself, the possibilities are absolutely endless. You can change, you realize that you can just change everything, not just the relationship. You can totally transform anything and everything that you want in your life.
Hallelujah.
It's power.
That's beautiful. I would love for you to share. I mean, obviously, we have a really good understanding of what you do, but I would love for you to, or who you help. I would love for you to talk directly to the audience listening live right now. Thank you for being here. And those that are watching on the replay, what exactly your business is, who exactly you help, who should be reaching out to you.
Yes. So I help women I typically help women who are already outside of their relationships. I do have clients that are still in relationships, of course. The steps of recovery are a little slower and the goal setting is different, right? Like our strategy becomes different depending on where they are and how comfortable they are. I typically help women who are out of the relationship and they are sitting in that confusion of trying to figure out what's happening to them, help them normalize what's happening to them, because we all feel crazy whenever we get out of it. And I also help women who have to co-parent, because that no contact and gray rock, it can only get you so far when you share kiddos. And the legal system is a whole different battle. So I also help with communication strategies when it comes to communicating with narcissistic abusers in the court system, because they will absolutely use your children to their advantage.
Oh, it just makes me not be able to breathe. So extra. These people. Oh.
I know. Well, it's tough, but.
Well, I love what you do. It's definitely something that is 100% needed for those that would love to reach out to you and be a part of your world and see all the things that you're doing. Where can they find you website wise, and where do you hang out on social media?
Yes. So I have, my main following is on TikTok, and that is Triumph Over Trauma. There's an underscore between. So Triumph _over_ trauma. I am also on Facebook, Hart Strong Enterprise, Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. I just recently started building a following on Instagram, and that's triumph.overtrauma. My website is www.heartstrong.net, and there's actually a free resource out there for women who are getting out of the relationship. It's a 9-page workbook to help you go no contact. And if you have children in common, help you set your expectations on how to communicate, how they're going to trigger you. And then there's some other information just on how to care for yourself and how to plan to care for yourself when you're out of the relationship.
Beautiful. What was your TikTok again?
Triumph over trauma.
Triumph. And did you say there's an underscore?
Underscore, yeah. Underscore over underscore trauma.
Okay, we're gonna test out my spelling skills on the word triumph.
TRIUMPH. It's okay. I get them mixed up.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So triumph over trauma with underscores in between. Thank you so much, Heather, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much for the niche that you are in and all of the women that you are giving hope to. For those of you listening live, if you resonate with Heather and all the goodness that she shared, make sure to reach out to her. Her website, heartstrong.net. She's on TikTok. She is on Insta. Make sure you follow her. Check in on her content to be able to help you flow through the challenges that you are dealing with at the moment. We love to connect people here on this platform. Heather, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Find your clarity. Find your clarity. And once you have it, there is nothing that will stop you.
So true. Thank you so much for being here. This brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. To our dedicated listeners, those listening live right now, thank you for staying with us until the very end. For those on the replay, thank you for staying with us until the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. For those of you that don't know me, I am the host here, Sabrina Victoria. This is the Her Talk Show podcast. And I would love for you to join our community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift and encourage each other through conversations just like